To the casual viewer, Markiplier is the loud, charismatic Let's Player with a booming baritone voice and a penchant for getting terrified by indie horror games. But underneath the bright pink hair of the mid-2010s and the explosive gaming setups lies a meticulously driven, deeply philosophical storyteller. His journey isn't just one of viral luck. It is a profound narrative of surviving personal tragedy, battling absolute failure, and completely rewriting the rules of what a YouTube creator can be. To understand the drive of Markiplier, you have to go back to the beginning. Mark Edward Fischbach was born on June 28, 1989, at the Tripler Army Medical Center in Honolulu, Hawaii. His father, Clifton Fischbach, was a military man of German descent, and his mother, Sun-woo, was a native of South Korea. Shortly after his birth, the family relocated to Cincinnati, Ohio, the place Mark would come to call his hometown. Growing up, Mark's life was an exercise in balancing contrasting worlds. He and his older brother, Thomas, were deeply creative, but money was often tight. The family dynamic faced an immense strain when his parents divorced, a turbulent event that forced Mark to adapt quickly to emotional instability. Yet the true anchor of his early life was his father. Clifton introduced the boys to computers and technology, instilling in Mark a foundational curiosity for how things worked. But just as Mark was transitioning into adulthood, his world fractured. While studying biomedical engineering at the University of Cincinnati, his father was diagnosed with lung and bone cancer. In 2008, Clifton passed away. The loss was paralyzing. In later years, Mark would candidly reflect that his father's death sent him into a dark spiral of existential dread. He was trapped in a major he didn't love, dealing with a painful breakup, and buried under mountain-high financial debt. The breaking point arrived in 2012. Mark suffered an emergency appendectomy, and while doctors were operating, they discovered a large tumor on his adrenal gland that required extraction. Lying in a hospital bed, staring at the ceiling, facing his own mortality at just 22 years old, Mark came to a paradigm-shifting realization. He was completely out of control of his own life. He needed an outlet. He needed something that was entirely unconditionally his. That outlet was a cheap webcam and a newly registered YouTube account named Markiplier, a portmanteau of Mark and Multiplier, a nod to his original plan to voice-act multiple characters in sketches. On May 4, 2012, his very first video went live. The early days were rough. He began with Let's Plays of Amnesia, The Dark Descent, and Penumbra, but the universe seemed determined to test his resolve. Shortly after starting, his AdSense account was banned by Google due to a technical error threatening any hope of future monetization. Rather than throwing in the towel, Mark made a decisive move. He abandoned the original channel and started anew under the handle Markiplier Game. It was during this era that the Markiplier persona crystallized. He wasn't just playing games, he was living them. His booming, theatrical voice matched with exaggerated, intensely authentic reactions to horror games struck a chord with a rapidly growing demographic of lonely internet kids looking for a friend. Then came August 2014. A solo developer named Scott Cawthon released a deceptively simple indie horror game called Five Nights at Freddy's. Mark's reaction video, titled "Warning, Scariest Game in Years," became a cultural wildfire. His genuine terror, mixed with strategic gameplay and an obsessive dedication to uncovering the game's lore, turned him into the unofficial king of FNAF. The algorithm exploded. Within months, Markiplier wasn't just a YouTuber, he was an internet phenomenon, pulling in millions of views a day and standing shoulder to shoulder with titans like PewDiePie and Jacksepticeye. By 2015, Mark had relocated to Los Angeles, California, cementing his status in the epicenter of digital media. This was the era of the iconic pink hair, a look adopted for a charity event that became his definitive visual trademark. But as his subscriber count soared past the 10 million mark, a quiet transformation was occurring behind the scenes. Mark began to realize the terrifying amount of influence he held. Instead of hoarding the wealth and fame, he redirected it. Markiplier became synonymous with high-stakes charity live streams. Over the course of his career, he would raise millions of dollars for causes like the Cancer Research Institute, the Trevor Project, and Cincinnati Children's Hospital. His relationship with his fan base, whom he affectionately treated as peers rather than a faceless mass, became the bedrock of his longevity. However, the relentless grind of the daily upload schedule began to take its toll. The gaming videos were highly successful, but the creative engineer inside him was growing restless. He didn't want to just react to other people's art anymore. He wanted to build his own. In the late 2010s, Mark embarked on an era of unprecedented creative experimentation. He moved away from standard Let's Plays and dove headfirst into high-production, interactive, choose-your-own-adventure-style films. A Heist with Markiplier, 2019, and later In Space with Markiplier, 2022, pushed the technical boundaries of YouTube, utilizing intricate branching narratives, professional visual effects, and Hollywood-level cinematography. But perhaps his most daring creative risk occurred on November 15, 2019. Alongside fellow creator Ethan Nestor, Crank Gameplays, Mark launched an experimental channel called Unus, Annus, Latin for 1 year. The premise was simple, yet radically counterintuitive to the entire philosophy of the internet. Upload one video every single day for exactly 1 year, and when the clock ran out, delete the entire channel permanently. Unus Annus was a masterclass in performance art. It explored existentialism, mortality, and the beauty of impermanence through bizarre, comedic, and often deeply philosophical daily vlogs. On November 14, 2020, over 1.5 million live viewers watched in stunned silence as Mark and Ethan hit the delete button, erasing over 365 videos and 4.5 million subscribers into the digital ether. It was a stark reminder of his father's passing, a living monument to the concept of memento mori, remember that you must die. It proved that Mark valued the artistic journey far more than permanent metrics. Today, Markiplier has evolved far beyond the confines of a traditional Let's Player. He is a multimedia polymath. His comedy podcast, Distractable, consistently tops global audio charts. He has launched successful premium apparel lines like Cloak. More impressively, he has successfully transitioned into traditional Hollywood filmmaking, writing, directing, and starring in the feature-length adaptation of the indie sci-fi horror game Iron Lung. What makes the biography of Markiplier so compelling isn't the number of subscribers or the billions of views. It is the evolution of a man who looked absolute despair in the eyes in a hospital bed in Ohio and chose to build an empire out of thin air. He remains loud, he remains eccentric, and he still screams at pixelated monsters. But above all, Mark Fischbach is a testament to what happens when you treat the internet not as a casino for fame, but as an open canvas for human connection and boundless imagination. And as long as there are stories to tell, the multiplier effect of Markiplier will keep moving forward.